lyrics. Our next guest comes to us from the great city of Seattle. He, of course, is a great independent journalist and a regular here every Tuesday on the program. Our good friend Mark Taylor-Canfield joins us. Mark, happy Tuesday, my man. How are you?
I'm doing good, Jeff. Happy Teacher Tuesday to everybody out there. It's been another busy week for me. I'm working on a documentary film about the protests against the Shell Corporation here and their Polar Pioneer oil drilling rig. So I've been staring at a screen for way too many hours. I'm sure you know what that's like.
Oh, yes, indeed. Well, good luck with that, man. We'll keep an eye on that. Well, we got a lot to talk about, but let's start it with Donald Trump. Supporters today in Las Vegas for the big CNN debate. Somebody comes out, the protester gets I don't know if arrested or pushed away from the event, and somebody is shouting "Sieg Heil" to the protester. This is scary stuff. What are you hearing about this?
Well, I was following this on Twitter. It's actually being featured on the front page of Twitter right now as a Twitter happening. But people started tweeting from the event as it was happening. So if you were following Twitter, you started seeing these posts saying protesters being treated roughly, threats of violence being shouted by the crowd, and then even MSNBC started reporting this one man who said "Sieg Heil." So, and that was as the protesters were being dragged out of the hall. Nobody's quite sure who this person is or whether Trump even heard the remark from the stage, but it once again brings up a lot of questions about some of the supporters of the Trump presidential campaign and their affiliation with groups that might be openly racist or white supremacist. That was an issue we talked about last week because of some neo-Nazi groups that have gone public in support of the Donald Trump campaign. And this was another example involving Black Lives Matter protesters and people supporting gun control that prompted a really severe reaction. There was a lot of physicality involved and people pushing and shoving and people shouting very threatening and using violent terms towards the protesters. So, if that's any indication of the Trump presidential campaign, things could get really sketchy. The debates, are happening in Las Vegas, and that's where this rally took place, where these protesters were ejected. So it's a kind of an ominous beginning to, the debate day, and it's being reported widely. And like I said, featured on Twitter that there were very violent threats made from people in the crowd. And I'm not even going to repeat some of them because I don't think that they should be repeated, but it's very serious. Another issue involving accusations of racism and elements of the Trump campaign that are very, very anti-immigrant and tend to be, at least some of these people tend to be anti-Muslim. So it was brought out in front of the cameras. There were a lot of people there that were filming it. You can see in the video that even most of the Trump supporters are filming it. So I don't know how they're spinning it on their website posts, but in the mainstream media, it's being covered as a kind of a frightening issue for people who do believe in civility and tolerance. Which,
well, there's no doubt, Mark, that what people are hoping. I think about 60 to 70% of the American people are, at this point, want no part of Trump. But there's that 30%, and there's a poll up at 40, but it's probably closer to 30% of voters who like this guy and who believes that he speaks for them. Now, I think that coupled with the fear that we have in general mass media, we had the scare in Los Angeles today, which, look, at this point, several hours later, it's like it wasn't a true thing. The New York police commissioner, used to be the LA police commissioner, Bill Bratton, came from Boston originally, said that it was sort of, we looked at it as a hoax. But people are scared. They're also scared of the economic scenarios. And what is happening, I think, is that Donald Trump looks at people who are scared and looks at the TV screens covering all this stuff, and he doubles down on it. And he doubles down and he picks on people, Latinos, African American, Muslims. And this is what Trump should be called out for, is he is preying on people, and the people who are, given the Hitler salute or whatever the case may be. And of course, there were difficult times when the Third Reich itself started out in Germany. I don't know if there's a link there.
Well, it is true, and it's a hard fact to accept, but it is true that as you travel across the country, there are a lot of, especially rural areas of the country, where racism is considered acceptable. And, I've witnessed that myself as I've traveled across the country. So there is that element out there. I think what's concerning people is the fact that Trump has gone from being sort of a Saturday Night Live comedian skit to something of a dogmatist. He's definitely using fear to build his campaign, and that's something that I guess, the demagogue is the best way I could describe that sort of strategy politically, is that you prey on people's fears, you prey on their prejudices, and you try to gather them together to support you, and that seems to be what he's doing, and he definitely has the ego to do that kind of thing. That's never been a secret, that Donald Trump's ego is huge, as he would say. So it's a potentially dangerous combination. And when you have someone who is using that kind of dogma to help rally people around his campaign, and meanwhile, of course, in the videos standing in front of the American flag, which some people might take offense to, and that's an important point to make as well. That some people just don't think that just represents America. There's a lot of people in the Republican Party who don't think it represents the GOP, and so he's experiencing a backlash from that. But he does approach it sort of as a shock jock, and there's a whole tradition of exploitation of political issues used by political campaigns and by media pundits. We have the whole Rush Limbaugh, Glenn Beck phenomenon. And so he's playing right into that sort of extreme right-wing exploitation too. So there you go. It's a combination of factors that have got people who are political observers really concerned about, where that campaign is going and what it means. I think that progressives especially are very concerned because issues of civil rights and, like I said, tolerance and civility are very important these days.
49 minutes past the hour, talking with our good friend Taylor-Canfield in Seattle, and Uber in the news. Thanks for the city council there in Seattle. What's the latest with Uber in Seattle, Mr. Canfield?
The Seattle City Council did vote unanimously to give these taxi for hire and Uber drivers the ability to unionize. So they are the first city in the U.S. to allow contract drivers to organize and bargain for issues like you're speaking about, a livable wage and other working conditions. So this was a major victory